Data. This video documents 60 street blocks of Miro Street in both the Upper and Lower Ninth Ward. These 60 street blocks represent 1.7% of the Ninth Ward. 1.7%. If I had photographed the entirety of the Ninth Ward, the video would be 7 hours and 35 minutes long. On my drive to New Orleans, my car broke down in Mississippi. While I watched my tow truck driver load up my car, I stood in the knee-high grass of the median. I looked down and found the skeletons of small animals, loose bones in a pool of dirt at my feet. I reached for my camera, but didn't take a picture. There'd be time to photograph broken skeletons later. The lower Ninth Ward scared me out of my skin. The only sound was from the wind running her fingers through the tall grasses of empty lots. Nature doing for us what we are unable to do. Whoever was responsible for building poorly engineered levees and then not maintaining them ought to clean up the Ninth Ward. But apparently we as citizens have lost the ability to hold that element of governmental authority responsible for their actions. Instead, the fingers get pointed round and round, round and round the circle again, and the bureaucracy is so big the left hand wouldn't recognize the right hand if they met in the middle of the street. Lee Garrick told me this, and Suzanne, and John Lambert. If you want anything done, do it yourself. Don't bother with the people who wear official uniforms. They wear these uniforms to flatter their own reflections. Nothing so sinister as a conspiracy theory. No, this is the fruit of vanity, sloth, greed, pride, and a governmental bureaucracy so large the sense of personal responsibility is far too diffuse to expect anything to happen. The morning of Sunday, June 17th, I went to the cafe on the corner to write postcards, have coffee, and wake up. The apartment where I was guest was oppressive, heavy with my sleep and the humid sleep of the people who live there. Café Envie, air conditioning, hand-set hexagonal tile floor, giant latte, my muses, The Clash, and Tom Waits. I wrote my postcards and stamped them. All I needed was a post office box to mail them in. I sized up the gentleman at a nearby table. He had a sad light in his face. I said, "Excuse me, sir, but do you know where there's a post office or mailbox in the French Quarter?" "I suppose I do," he said. This is how I met Joseph Griffin. Once his directions got past 3 turns, he offered to walk me there. Quiet Sunday morning, French Quarter, glistened streets with sun-stroking, humid, damp windows, all the crimson turquoise, peachy taupe, and candlelit street lamps. "You're visiting New Orleans?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I came to see how the city is doing." He walked on my left, about 5'8", white polo shirt and jeans, black baseball cap, African-American wearing unrimmed glasses, sadness and determination worn into his face, shoulders rolled forward slightly with the posture of endurance. Still, no mailbox. The first location, it was taken away. The second location was locked up. The third location was taken away. As we stopped for directions to a fourth, I realized there are no mailboxes in the French Quarter. This is crazy. The French Quarter is the tourist destination for the city, and there are no mailboxes? Why can't visitors easily send information out? It feels like New Orleans is quarantined from the rest of the country. She's been profoundly injured, and for whatever reason, the authorities are keeping the city isolated from the rest of the United States. Information about how the city is doing doesn't make its way into the national media. Information is not circulating. And as Joseph Griffin told me, the people in New Orleans want to know that the people outside of the city care about what is happening there. We went to a different cafe for a coffee after the quest for a mailbox failed. He told me how his mother had passed on 2 months before the storm, how his father hadn't been heard from since the storm, how he can't handle the strain of seeing the city struggle every day, of seeing the refuse, so he got a job as a cook on an oil rig and is offshore for 4 weeks at a time and onshore for 2 weeks at a time. And at the end of those 2 weeks, he's ready for the rigors of the rigid schedule of cooking again. He has his schedule and he keeps it. He journals. He cries sometimes for no reason. He prays every day and talks to God at night. He's helping his brother build his house. His brother's family is the future for him. His brother has a wife and kids. He takes it one day at a time. The rigid schedule cooking on the oil rig makes it easier. You do what you have to do. You do the next task on the list. He doesn't drown himself in drink or drugs like the fresh-faced frat boys I watched puking in the gutter before I went to the cafe that morning. I walked past rose petals and Trojan wrappers in the gutter, avoided being the subject of a tourist's photograph. How many tourists will go where I went after that conversation? To the silence of a street in the lower Ninth Ward, the emptiness, the broken bones of the city showing. A few of them splintered, but mostly just being overgrown with grasses taller than I am.